Good afternoon. Welcome to the Moravian Historical Society's presentation of Unearthed, Archaeology of the Ephrata Tract in Nazareth, Pennsylvania. Before we begin, we at the Moravian Historical Society would like to recognize the indigenous peoples who were on the land before Europeans. The Ephrata Tract is part of the ancient homeland and traditional territory of Lenape people. An estimated 10 million Native Americans lived in North America before the arrival of European coloners. Many thousands lived in Lenapehoking, the vast homeland of Lenape, the first inhabitants of eastern Pennsylvania and parts of New York, New Jersey, Maryland, and Delaware. What is archaeology? In the most basic of terms, archaeology is the scientific study of human activity through material remains. While there are many types of archaeology, such as prehistoric, Mesoamerican, underwater, and salvage archaeology, the archaeology conducted on this site is known as historical archaeology. Archaeology always follows professional standards and transparencies. They follow the standards to ensure that nothing that comes out of the ground is lost, that the context or provenience of every historical object is recorded for the future generations. So the archaeological method starts with a question or a research topic. As you will see as we continue through the presentation, one of the main research topics and questions to answer was, where's the first house here on the Nazareth site? Then they research the historical records. Surveying and mapping and excavation comes next. When they record the artifacts, they record the artifacts in the ground by drawing and photography. Before anything is removed from site, the context of where it came from is recorded. And then the last part is publication of all the finds, plans, photographs, and an interpretation of the site significance. So why conduct archaeology on our site at all? Well, it's because both standing structures, the Whitfield House and the Gray Cottage, are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Being included on the National Register of Historic Places means that any time that any undertakings will be composed on the property, that they must consult with the State Historic Preservation Office. And that means that anytime, like if the driveway, as you will see in 2003, is changed, that archaeologist, a professional archaeologist, must come in and explore what is going to be disturbed by the project. And also conducting archaeology on site is because this tract has been occupied by Europeans since 1740. The first house, which is what was the question with the Hunter research, was a log 2.5-story structure that was built by the Moravians who came to this tract with George Whitfield. They built the structure first, and then later they added the lean-to that you see with the pointer on the side. They lived here for a while and then had a falling out with Whitfield, went to Bethlehem and came back and finished the Whitfield house, the stone house, in 1743. In 1749, both log dwellings housed widows of Nazareth and Bethlehem. But more interesting, in 1755, the buildings were evacuated. The Moravians left the buildings, and refugees of the French and Indian War sheltered inside. And these refugees were non Moravian members of the surrounding areas. And we know from our historical records and drawings that during this time, the three buildings were palisaded. And that is another key question that archaeologists have tried to investigate. And then in 1980, both the Gray Cottage and the Whitfield House are listed on the National Register of Historic Places. Recent archaeology research at the site. Kira Pressler was the first professional archaeologist to conduct research on the site, according to the records. Before this, objects had been uncovered through various utility installation and small grounds improvement projects. The objects recovered from these types of improvements are in our collection. In 2014, we had Hunter Research and Muhlenberg College come and use state-of-the-art technology to remotely look underneath the ground here on site to find any traces of historical features. And then in 2019, Hunter returned, again due to the inclusions of the Gray Cottage and the Whitfield House in the National Register of Historic Places, to monitor when the ramp was constructed at the Gray Cottage. So Kira Pressler focused on a driveway expansion. In 2003, they were going to expand the driveway, but there was a brick feature that you will see in a later slide located. And so this, they called Kira Pressler in, and she excavated the brick feature and found 813 artifacts. The artifacts found date from the late 18th to early to mid 19th centuries. But what's most interesting was that the brick feature may have been associated with this well pump. And this photograph is from 1863. This is the Whitfield House in the back. There's a well. And here's the picture with the modern location of the brick feature, the Whitfield House, and the second course of bricks for the brick feature. So it was determined that it was a shaft. It could very possibly well have been part of the well. In 2014, Hunter Research came to investigate areas of archaeological sensitivity. They used ground-penetrating radar and ran over most of the site. It was by far the largest project conducted on the site. They were searching for the first house and the possible stockade line. They found the first house plus 41 other potential features. So in this slide, you see the ground penetrating radar and the anomalies that it's picking up. So with that information, Hunter was able to produce this map, and it shows the possible foundations of the first house there. Well, it's the foundations of the first house and the lean-to that was added to it. As you can see, some of the main block of the first house is under the driveway, the present driveway, and the storage shed. So their results were that the first house was located. There were 14 likely buried structures, 16 historic shaft features, and 11 modern pathways, roads, and driveways. 12 were selected for testing. This is a picture of excavation unit 1, which was put in to explore the foundations of the first house. Here you can see the normal subsoil that's not disturbed. Down here you see where they have cut deeper into the earth in order to put in the foundation walls for the cellar. This is some dressed filled stone. It was found in what they are calling historic shaft feature 6. And out of this feature has come some very nice ceramic objects. So Hunter's results, as you can see, outbuildings, wells, cistern, refuse pit, the first house, and a potential privy feature, which was excavated by Muhlenberg College. Now, this object is from historic shaft 6, the field stones that we saw in earlier pictures. It's a bisque porcelain figure, very small, as you can see. It could either have been a toy or a decorative piece on a larger object. Also, we have beautiful redware and a glass bottleneck. This bottleneck looks this way due to the patina that comes from it being in the ground for many, many years. It's the salts and other chemicals leaching out from the glass. And also Hunter found redware stove tile. We have a tile stove in our Zoll upstairs, but this style has been found in every excavation from just on grounds to Pressler and Muhlenberg have found this style of stove tile. Some of the nicer objects to come out of the foundation stones of the first house, this sleigh bell, which is almost identical to one that was found on site here during a utility construction in the 1990s. And this button that dates from about 1726 to 1776. So Hunter was able to show representation from the founding 1740 of the site. Muhlenberg College, they were seeking the stockade. We have evidence that the site was palisaded during the French and Indian War, and that there were guardsmen put out to watch. They were told not to shoot to kill, but just shoot to scare. And under the direction of Dr. Benjamin Carter, they looked for the stockade and excavated several units in order to explore a shaft feature that was found by Hunter. The results were they found a lot of artifacts that spanned the dates of occupation on the site. So they were searching and excavating for the outhouse or cistern here at the Whitfield house. This is a map also produced by Hunter, and these pink dotted lines represent where they think the stockade was. In 2019, Hunter came back to monitor the gray cottage. We were constructing a ramp, and also around the other side, they were installing a heating and cooling system. So this is actual excavation work. Here you can see all the stone redware roof tiles that was found. And then the filled stones, the excavation units going on. So this is an example of what Hunter found at the ramp site. This is it coming out of the ground, and this is it cleaned up and processed. As you can see, we have our aqua glass bottle here and here. There you have this piece here, and you can see your redware stove tiles. So Hunter's GPR information allowed a map of archaeological potential to be created. Everyone who has conducted research on this site agrees that there's a large portion still intact beneath the ground surface, and any impact of any future modifications will have to continue to be monitored, perhaps even more excitingly, excavated. So there's a lot of potential. The area of low archaeological potential here comes from the demolition of 2 existing dwellings. Moderate is around the gray cottage. Again, it has been impacted by various utility work and construction. The highest, of course, is around the Whitfield house. So this is the wellhead, the first house. The outhouse or cistern that Muhlenberg excavated, and some other buildings. So what's next? The exciting news is that any excavation that continues, we could excavate the entire first house, which would probably just consist of some foundation stones and stones. Finding evidence of the stockade. We know the area that the buildings were palisaded. We just can't find any evidence of the stockade. And probably most intriguing, excavation in the Whitfield house basement, going down even deeper to see what was below the foundations, and also to hopefully find some answers to why we have a large fireplace downstairs.